Say yes every day to the world and to your heart. Open up your eyes and let your spirit start. Say yes to the dreams you hold inside. Let your soul be your guide.
Thank you for joining us today for another episode of Wednesday Wisdom. Today, we are joined by the fabulous Cheryl Dempsey. She is the CEO of Coastal Breeze Processing. Cheryl, thank you so much for joining us today, and we're so excited to learn your insights and, of course, get your advice for all of us to lead and utilize in our year 2024. So to kick us off, we're going back in the past, and our first question is, what was the best piece of advice that you have ever received from someone? And please share with us, who was it that gave you that great advice?
Oh, that's a fun one. So I'll start with the person that shared it, and she is one of my biggest mentors who has now been a part of my journey for the past 20 years. And we met early on in my early career. She was in management, and I was working through school, and she and I got to know each other, and she really helped just kind of build and work with my professional career. And the biggest piece of advice that she gave me, and it was actually more personal than business, and it was know when it's time to go. And know when it's time to leave. And I think in business, we don't want to leave that because that feels like quitting, right? Like if I leave, or if I stop this project, or if I decide that this is not the path, it feels like a failure because we didn't complete the job. We didn't get to 100%. We didn't see something all the way through. And sometimes in doing that, we're missing out on opportunities that really we don't have the opportunity, to explore. Staying in a job for too long that maybe doesn't have career advancement. Staying in a position that needs to shift, that needs to change. Staying in a project that isn't working, but we're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. And so knowing when it's time, to say, okay, this isn't working. It's time to change this, leave, or pivot and redirect has been huge, both personally and professionally for me.
Wow, that is incredible advice and difficult advice to utilize because of all the things that you just mentioned, right? I know that, if you speak to people first starting out in business, whether you're an entrepreneur, a loan officer, a salesperson, or in management, so many times you say, well, I have to accept every client, or I have to do business with every partner. And it's very difficult. And it's kind of that process of saying, well, maybe this partner isn't aligned with the mission or the culture of my company or who I am, right? But you want to fit them in, right? You want to always take every partner, every client, every opportunity, but yet as you kind of become mature in your business and in your confidence level, you come to realize that sometimes you gain by losing. Or by cutting out some things that aren't aligned and really are not a good fit for your business or for yourself. So, okay, so now I'm going to kind of put you on the spot a little bit. How have you taken that advice? Maybe give us an example of how you've applied that advice in a situation. And of course, it can be personal or business. How have you applied it and then gained, from applying that advice?
So the biggest and easiest way for me to answer that one is that's how Coastal Breeze Process got started. I was working in government finance and had a great job, no complaints, benefits, salary, all of the perks of things. But it wasn't an environment that really was giving me joy. And so the contract was up, and I made a really scary decision to say, I'm not coming back. I'm not going to renew my contract. And I didn't know what I was going to do at the time, but I knew that it wasn't that wasn't the path for me. And that's when Coastal Breeze Process opened. And that's when I started that business. And then, you know, we've grown all throughout 2022, 2023, into hopefully, you know, exponential growth in 2024. The other things that I've seen just in daily tasks is having those difficult conversations quickly, right?
Right.
If it's not working, if something's not working, or if expectations aren't being met, instead of avoiding and delaying that long drawn out, like, oh, I don't know, I'm going to give it some more time. Maybe in 6 months, things will change. But addressing those things head on that can be uncomfortable has been key as well, because then we can shift and we can adapt and we can pivot quickly and then keep the momentum going.
Wow. So that's a big move. I mean, for you to have come to that decision, how long after you said, okay, I think I'm not going to renew, how much time was it from there to opening up Coastal Breeze?
So 3 weeks.
Wow.
3 weeks. Because I knew I didn't want to go back to a 9 to 5 in the office. I was a lot of the government work is, you know, late nights and things like that. Not that that's any different than what I do now, but it's on my terms now versus someone else. I mean, we had I had the company licensed and started an LLC going within 3 weeks, and I mean,
wow,
within 3 months, NMLS approved. So.
And during a very difficult time in the mortgage industry, right? Which, and I think you and I have had this conversation that sometimes the biggest opportunities come in the worst markets. So listen, you know, it's wonderful that rates have stabilized and decreased and all of that. And yes, you know, we're all feeling a bit better going into 2024, but we have to remember that don't lose sight that just because there's a little bit of relief, continue to look for those opportunities, continue to challenge ourselves, continue to realize that the magic happens outside of our comfort zone, not in our comfort zone. Because so many times as we're doing our routine and we're staying within that comfort zone, it appears that everything is great, but we might be missing something even bigger, whether it's with partners, whether it's with opportunities that come. So just keep that in mind. And I love that story. Thank you for sharing. And that truly is applying that advice that you had received. Okay. So now, Cheryl, what we'd love to hear is, what's a piece of advice that you would like to share with everyone listening today?
I think one of the biggest things I've learned this past year is to focus on the things that I can control and impact, and let go of those that I can't influence at the time. Because I want to run everything smoothly. I want everything to be perfect, and I want all of the pieces to fit together. And sometimes I can't. And so if it's not something that I am in control of, that's wasted energy for me, for my company, and I need to give 100% to those things that I can control. I can't control the market. I can't make interest rates what they are, but I can make a client experience really good. I can serve brokers well. I can serve my employees well, and I can, you know, try and make that profitable and pleasant business. And by focusing on those things, everything else that's all going to happen on its own. Interest rates are going to be what they're going to be. Those things I can't fix. And me worrying about that or spending time trying to, you know, influence that, and I mean, obviously, you know, there are a million other things that we get distracted by. We go down the rabbit hole of, you know, squirrel, squirrel, squirrel. And so I think that's one piece. And then the other is what I've really have to come to terms with myself as well, with being kind of a perfectionist, is I'm going to give 100% every day, and then I'm going to leave it on the table when the day is done, because There's nothing sometimes that's happening at 9 o'clock at night that still isn't going to be there at 9 o'clock in the morning. And so I know if I've done everything that I could in my power to give the best service, the best experience, the best value that I can during the day, then I'm gonna close that day, and tomorrow it'll be there. But I think too often we carry that and we bring that in, we bring that into our home, we bring that into our relationships, we bring that into our families, we bring a lot of those stressors back to the house that just don't need to be there, because 100% every day, and then leave it at the table, then you're done.
Wow, those two things are very big things because when you take the first one about the control your controllables, the things that you can control, that's all you can do. Because to your point, to use the example of the interest rates, the market is the market, and those are things that we don't have control over, right? And so sitting around worrying or being nervous about it or trying to second guess and everything else, we would drive ourselves crazy, and that's just one example. There's so many things that we just can't control those things, right? And honestly, I will tell you, for me, I think COVID was kind of my turning point in my life, where I finally said, I can't control a pandemic. I can't control like things being shut down. I can't like, that was like one of my moments in my life where I was kind of like, man, I try so hard to control everything. And this is like a moment in my life where I'm like, I have no control over anything that's happening right now. And I think I've kind of started seeing the world different based on that, right? So big, great lesson of control your controllables. And then
it's
that
freeing. I was going to say, it's freeing when you really get it. It's such a weight lift that you're like, okay,
what was I trying to do all that time, right? Why was I trying to like force it, right? And pushing it, right? Because we were just getting exhausted trying to do that, right? And then the second one, I mean, that's a hefty lesson right there of, I know many people, that in the mortgage industry, it's like, just one more email, just one more response, just one more phone call, like, right? And we're all like that same mindset. And listen, part of why we're successful is because we think like that, right? Sure. But at some point, and I will even share with you myself, I have a cutoff. My cutoff is 8 o'clock at night. And what that means is at 8 o'clock at night, people just know I'm not responding to the email. I'm not getting on the phone. That is my time, right? Because I figured that's 5 o'clock in the West. That's 8 o'clock in the East, right? And it's kind of like at 8 o'clock, that's it. Like, I'm not going to respond. Like, and I remember the very first time I did that, I was like, oh my God, what about my West Coast sales team? It might be 6 o'clock and they need me. But then what I did, and this is a good discussion, because what I decided to do was tell people, this is what I'm doing. 5 o'clock in the West, 8 o'clock in the East, anything after that, expect a response from me the next morning. And at first I was like, oh my God, people are going to be upset with me.
And they were fine with it, right?
They were fine with it, Cheryl.
This is what I found as well. Someone said, hey, are you available for a phone call? It's 9 o'clock at night. No, I am not.
No.
But I am available in the morning. And they were like, okay.
That's right.
And I mean, I was scared and sick to my stomach, right? Like, I'm going to say no.
I know.
But it's 9 o'clock at night. What is happening at 9 o'clock at night? The lenders aren't open.
What are you going to be able to do at 9 o'clock at night? Like,
we're not funding at 9 o'clock at night. 9 a.m. That'll be great. And it was fine. And the relationship is fine. And I think too often we hype ourselves up in that sense too, of thinking that our expectation on ourselves is a lot higher sometimes than others is. And we feed that too.
And if we communicate it, like you said, like saying, no, sorry, I'm not available, but I'll be happy to jump on at 9 o'clock. People are okay with that. Mm-hmm. Like, so many times we're like afraid to share. Like if somebody said to me, I don't do business on Sunday. I don't do business on Sunday. That's my family day. Okay. Like, I would have no problem. have a wonderful time with your family. You know, that's great. But so many times we're afraid to say that because we think that we're going to have like a negative mark against us if we do.
Right.
But honestly, most people appreciate kind of knowing that's wonderful that Sunday is your time with your family that you
Right.
spend together. That's
Yeah.
no problem. So I love that advice, both of those things, because, and those are lessons that things that we know, but so many times we're afraid to actually do them. And then we cause our own stress and we kind of cause our
Yes.
own level of this perfectionism that we're trying to live up to. And that's what causes burnout. That's where people get burnt out. And we have way too much more families to help and so much more business to do that we want to
Yes.
make sure that everybody can, you know, be happy and fulfilled and balanced in harmony as
Right.
best as we can, at least.
Of course. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, Cheryl, thank you so much for sharing all of your wonderful insights. We wish you to continue to shine brightly, and thank you so much. All the best to you and Coastal Breeze Processing.
Thank you.